The dust rising from the rutted main street of Randsburg, California, seemed to hang in the afternoon air like a veil of suffering, and through it stumbled a young woman carrying a gray-faced man on her back, her legs trembling with exhaustion as she fought to take one more step toward the distant end of town. Teresa Calloway had been walking for 3 hours, her father's weight pressing down on her shoulders until she thought her spine might snap. The September sun of 1887 beat mercilessly on her back, soaking her simple cotton dress with sweat. Her father, Samuel, had been unconscious for the last mile, his fever making him burn against her like a coal from a blacksmith's forge. She had tried to get help at the first buildings they passed, but Randsburg was a mining town, and most folks either did not answer their doors or turned them away with suspicious eyes when they saw her father's condition. "Just a little further, Papa," she whispered, though she knew he could not hear her. Her voice cracked from thirst. They had run out of water 2 miles back on the desert road. "Dr. Williams lives at the end of town. Mrs. Henderson at the general store told me so. Just a little further." Her foot caught on a rut in the road, and Teresa fell to one knee with a cry of pain. Her father's weight shifted, and she had to use every ounce of strength to keep from collapsing completely. Tears streamed down her dust-covered face as she pushed herself back to standing. The doctor's house seemed impossibly far away, shimmering in the heat like a mirage. She took another step, then another. Her vision began to blur at the edges. Behind her, the sound of hoofbeats approached, but Teresa was too focused on putting one foot in front of the other to pay attention. The horse slowed, then stopped beside her. Still, she kept walking, her entire world narrowed to the simple act of forward motion. "Madam?" A deep voice broke through her concentration. "Madam, are you all right?" Teresa tried to answer, but her throat was too dry. She kept walking. The man dismounted in a fluid motion. "Madam, you look like you are about to collapse. Can I help you, doctor?" Teresa managed to croak. "Need the doctor." Strong hands suddenly took her father's weight, and the relief was so sudden that Teresa's legs gave out completely. Before she could hit the ground, an arm caught her around the waist. She found herself looking up at a man in his mid-20s with sun-bronzed skin, dark hair that curled slightly at the ends beneath his worn hat, and eyes the color of oak wood that held genuine concern. "I have got you," he said firmly. "Both of you. My name is Nathan Cooper. Can you stand if I help you?" Teresa nodded weakly. With his support, she managed to get her feet back under her, though her legs shook like a newborn foal's. Nathan had somehow shifted her father onto his back with ease, as if Samuel's weight was nothing at all. "The doctor's house is 3 blocks down. Can you make it that far if I help you walk?" "Yes," Teresa whispered. Thank you so much." Nathan kept one arm around her waist, supporting most of her weight as they moved down the street. His horse followed behind them without needing to be led. Teresa leaned heavily against him, breathing in the scent of leather and sage that clung to his clothes. "What happened to your father?" Nathan asked as they walked, his pace steady but quick. "Fever," Teresa managed. "Started 3 days ago. We have a homestead about 15 miles south. By the time I realized how bad it was, he could not ride. I have been walking since dawn, carrying him." Nathan's arm tightened around her waist. "Since dawn? That is over 6 hours. I had to get him help." Tears threatened again. "He is all I have. My mother died 2 years ago. It is just us." They reached a neat white house with a shingle hanging out front that read Dr. Elias Williams, physician. Nathan took the porch steps 2 at a time, still carrying Samuel, and kicked at the door with his boot. "Dr. Williams. Medical emergency." The door opened to reveal a portly man in his 50s with silver hair and spectacles. His expression shifted from annoyance to professional concern in an instant when he saw Samuel's gray face. "Bring him inside. Quickly now." Dr. Williams gestured to a room off the main hall. "Put him on the examination table." Nathan carried Samuel into the examination room and laid him carefully on the table. Teresa stumbled in behind them, her vision swimming. She grabbed the door frame to keep herself upright. Dr. Williams was already examining Samuel, checking his pulse and pulling back his eyelids. "How long has he been like this?" 3 days, Teresa said. "The fever started suddenly. He was fine in the morning, sick by evening. Yesterday he was delirious. This morning he stopped waking up." The doctor nodded, his face grave. He began a thorough examination while Nathan guided Teresa to a chair in the corner. She tried to resist, wanting to stay by her father's side, but her body had finally reached its limit. She collapsed into the chair. "Drink this slowly." Nathan pressed a tin cup of water into her hands. She had not even seen him get it. Teresa sipped gratefully, the cool liquid like heaven on her parched throat. Dr. Williams worked in focused silence for several minutes, examining Samuel's throat, listening to his breathing, checking the lymph nodes in his neck. Finally, he straightened up. "It is scarlet fever," he announced. "Has he had any rash?" Teresa nodded. "On his chest and arms. It started yesterday. His throat is badly inflamed and he is severely dehydrated. The unconsciousness is from the fever and exhaustion." The doctor looked at Teresa with kind but serious eyes. "You got him here just in time. Another few hours in that heat, and I do not think I could have helped him." The relief was so intense that Teresa began to cry in earnest. Nathan was beside her in an instant, kneeling down so they were eye level. "He is going to be all right," he said softly. "The doctor will take care of him." "I will need to keep him here for at least a week," Dr. Williams said. "Possibly 2, depending on how he responds to treatment. Scarlet fever is serious, but your father is strong. He has a good chance." "I cannot pay you," Teresa said, the words bitter in her mouth. "Not right away. Our homestead is small. We have some livestock and I can work, do laundry or cooking or anything you need." Dr. Williams waved a hand. "We will work something out. Right now, your father needs care and you look like you need a bed and a meal. When was the last time you ate?" Teresa tried to remember. "Yesterday morning, I think." Nathan stood up. "I will handle it, Dr. Williams. I will take her to the boarding house and make sure she is fed and has a room. You focus on her father." "I cannot leave him," Teresa protested, trying to stand. Her legs would not cooperate. "You can hardly stand," Nathan said gently. "You will do your father no good if you collapse from exhaustion. Get some food and rest, and you can come back this evening to sit with him." Dr. Williams nodded. "He is right. Besides, I need to work on your father without distractions. Give me a few hours to get the fever down and get some fluids in him. Come back at supper time." Teresa wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her like an undertow. She nodded reluctantly. Nathan helped her to her feet, and she took one last look at her father's pale face before allowing herself to be led from the room. Outside, the afternoon sun seemed less harsh now that she was not struggling under her father's weight. Nathan's horse stood patiently at the hitching post. He was a handsome bay gelding with intelligent eyes. "Can you ride if I help you up?" Nathan asked. "I think so." Nathan mounted first, then reached down to pull Teresa up behind him. She wrapped her arms around his waist, too tired to be embarrassed by the intimate position. The horse moved forward at an easy walk. "The boarding house is run by Mrs. Margaret Sutton," Nathan explained as they rode. "She is fair and keeps clean rooms. I stay there when I am in town." "What do you do?" Teresa asked, her voice muffled against his back. "I am a horse breeder. I have a ranch about 10 miles north of here, near Red Rock Canyon. I was in town today buying supplies when I saw you." He paused. "You were incredibly brave, carrying your father all that way." "I did not have a choice. There is always a choice. You could have left him and gotten help faster on your own. But you carried him. That takes strength." Teresa did not know what to say to that, so she said nothing. The boarding house appeared ahead, a two-story building painted yellow with white trim. Nathan dismounted and helped her down, his hands strong and steady on her waist. Inside, the boarding house smelled like bread and soup. A woman in her 40s with auburn hair pinned up in a neat bun looked up from the front desk. Her face was pleasant and friendly. "Nathan Cooper, as I live and breathe. Back so soon. Hello, Mrs. Sutton. I need a room for this young lady. Her father is being treated by Dr. Williams, and she needs rest and a good meal." Mrs. Sutton took in Teresa's exhausted, dust-covered state with a shrewd but sympathetic eye. "Poor dear. You look like you have been through hell and back. Let me get you set up in room 6. It has a nice view of the mountains and it is quiet." She pulled a key from the board behind her. "And I will have my girl bring up a bath and some hot food. How much will that cost?" Teresa asked, dreading the answer. Nathan pulled out his wallet. "It is taken care of." "No," Teresa said sharply, finding some reserve of energy in her pride. "I cannot accept charity." "It is not charity," Nathan said calmly. "It is help from one human being to another. You can pay me back when your father recovers and you are back on your feet." Teresa wanted to argue more, but exhaustion was making her sway on her feet. Mrs. Sutton came around the desk and took her arm. "Come along, dear. We can sort out the money later. Right now, you need to get clean and fed before you fall over." Teresa was too tired to resist. She let Mrs. Sutton lead her up the stairs to room 6, which was indeed clean and pleasant, with a brass bed and lace curtains on the window. Nathan followed with her small bag, which she had dropped outside the doctor's office. "I will leave you to rest," Nathan said, setting the bag on a chair. "But I will be back at supper time to take you to see your father." "Why are you doing all this?" Teresa asked, confusion and gratitude warring in her chest. "You do not even know me." Nathan met her eyes and she saw nothing but sincerity in his face. "Because you needed help and I was there to give it. That is reason enough." He tipped his hat. "Rest well, Miss Calloway." "Teresa Calloway." "Rest well, Miss Calloway." After he left, Mrs. Sutton helped Teresa out of her filthy dress and into a copper tub that two girls filled with hot water. Teresa sank into it with a groan of relief, washing away the dust and sweat and fear of the past 3 days. Mrs. Sutton brought up a tray of soup and bread and fresh water, and Teresa ate mechanically, barely tasting the food. When she finally lay down on the soft bed, she expected to fall asleep immediately. Instead, her mind raced with worry about her father, gratitude for the stranger who had helped them, and anxiety about how she would pay for all this care. The doctor's fees, the boarding house, whatever medicine her father needed, it would cost more than they had. Eventually, exhaustion won, and Teresa fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. She woke to soft knocking on her door. The light coming through the window was golden and slanted, indicating early evening. Teresa sat up quickly, disoriented for a moment before memory came flooding back. "Miss Calloway." Mrs. Sutton's voice came through the door. "Mr. Cooper is here to take you to the doctor's office." Teresa looked down at herself. She was wearing only her undergarments. "I need a moment to dress." "I left your dress outside the door. I had it washed and dried." Teresa opened the door a crack and retrieved the dress, which smelled of soap and sunshine. She dressed quickly, ran her fingers through her hair to tame it, and headed downstairs. Nathan was waiting in the parlor, his hat in his hands. He had cleaned up as well, she noticed, his face freshly shaved and his shirt changed. When he saw her, he smiled. "You look much better. Did you rest well?" "Yes, thank you." Teresa felt suddenly shy in front of this man who had helped her so much. In the bright light of the parlor, she could see him more clearly. He was tall and lean, with the weathered look of someone who spent most of his time outdoors. His hands were calloused but clean, and there was something solid and dependable about his presence. They walked to the doctor's office in the cooling evening air. Randsburg was coming alive as the day's heat faded. Miners were coming off their shifts, heading to saloons or boarding houses. Someone was playing a fiddle somewhere, the music drifting through the streets. "How long have you lived in California?" Nathan asked as they walked. 5 years. My parents and I came from Missouri. My father wanted land of his own. We filed a homestead claim south of here. It is hard land, but we have been making it work. That is not easy, especially for just 2 people now. No, Teresa admitted, but we manage. My father taught me to shoot and ride and work cattle. I am stronger than I look. Nathan glanced at her with what might have been admiration. I do not doubt that. Carrying a full-grown man for miles proves it. At the doctor's office, they found Samuel awake and propped up on pillows. His color was better, though he still looked weak. When he saw Teresa, his eyes filled with relief. "Teresa, thank God." His voice was hoarse but coherent. "I remember being on your back and then nothing. How did you get me here?" Teresa rushed to his side and took his hand. "I walked, Papa, and then this man helped us." She gestured to Nathan. "Mr. Cooper found us on the road and brought us to Dr. Williams." Samuel looked at Nathan with the assessing gaze of a father. "I owe you my life, sir, and my daughter's safety. I cannot repay that debt easily." Nathan shook his head. "No debt. I am just glad I was there when you needed help." Dr. Williams entered the room, looking satisfied. "Your fever is down, Mr. Calloway, and you kept down the broth I gave you. That is a good sign. But you are not out of the woods yet. You need rest and careful nursing for at least another week, possibly 2. "I will stay and nurse him," Teresa said immediately. "You can visit," the doctor corrected, "but he needs professional care right now. I have sent for my nurse, Mrs. Patterson. She will stay here and watch him around the clock for the next few days. I should be the one caring for him." "You should be getting proper rest yourself," Dr. Williams said firmly. "You pushed yourself to the breaking point today. A few more hours and you would have been the one needing medical care. Your father needs you healthy and strong, not collapsed from exhaustion." Samuel squeezed Teresa's hand. "He is right, daughter. You did what needed to be done, but now you need to take care of yourself. I will be fine here." They stayed for another hour, talking quietly. Samuel drifted in and out of sleep, and each time he woke, he seemed a little stronger. Finally, Dr. Williams shooed them out, insisting his patient needed rest. Outside, the street lamps were being lit, casting pools of yellow light on the dusty street. Nathan walked beside Teresa in comfortable silence for a moment before speaking. "Have you had supper?" Real supper, not just soup. Teresa realized she was hungry. "No, Mrs. Sutton sets a good table. Let me buy you a meal. You have done too much already." "Then consider it a business dinner. We should discuss how you are going to manage the next few weeks. Your homestead cannot sit unattended for long, and you need to be here for your father." That was practical enough that Teresa could not argue. They returned to the boarding house, where Mrs. Sutton had set out supper for the residents. There was roasted chicken, potatoes, fresh bread, and stewed apples. Teresa ate slowly, savoring every bite. Nathan waited until she had taken the edge off her hunger before speaking. "Tell me about your homestead. What livestock do you have?" 2 cows, a bull, 6 chickens, and 3 horses. "We have a small vegetable garden and about 40 acres. My father usually runs a few head of cattle, but we sold them last month to pay for supplies for winter." "Who is watching the place now?" No one. We left in such a hurry. Worry creased Teresa's brow. The animals will be all right for a few days. They can graze, but the chickens need to be shut up at night or coyotes will get them. Nathan was quiet for a moment, thinking. I could ride out tomorrow and check on things, make sure the animals are fed and safe. That is a full day's ride there and back. I have the time. My foreman can handle the ranch for a day or two. Teresa shook her head, overwhelmed. Why would you do that? You do not owe us anything. Nathan leaned forward, his expression serious. This country is hard, Miss Calloway. Nobody survives out here alone. We help each other or we all fail. Today it was your father who needed help. Tomorrow it might be me. That is how it works. There was something in his words that resonated with Teresa. She had seen that same spirit of mutual aid in other homesteaders, the understanding that survival depended on community, even in this harsh land. If you truly do not mind, I would be grateful, she said quietly. I can draw you a map to the homestead. After supper, they sat in the boarding house parlor while Teresa sketched directions on a piece of paper Mrs. Sutton provided. Nathan studied it carefully, asking questions about landmarks and the condition of the road. I will leave at first light, he said. I should be back by tomorrow evening. And I will stay here and visit my father. Teresa folded her hands in her lap. Mr. Cooper, I need to be honest with you. I have very little money. My father and I live simply, and medical care is expensive. I do not know how I will pay you back for all you have done. I am not worried about it. But I am. I do not like being in debt. Nathan studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right. If it makes you feel better, we will call it a loan. When your father is well and you are back on your feet, you can repay me however you see fit. Fair enough. It was not perfect, but it eased the weight on Teresa's chest a little. Fair enough. They sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the boarding house settling in around them. Mrs. Sutton was humming in the kitchen. Someone upstairs was playing a harmonica badly. You should get some sleep, Nathan said finally. You have had a long day. Teresa nodded but found herself reluctant to leave his presence. There was something comforting about Nathan Cooper, something solid and safe that made her want to stay near him. But she was being foolish. He was just a kind stranger who happened to help them. Nothing more. She stood and Nathan stood with her. Thank you again, Mr. Cooper, for everything. Nathan, he corrected gently. And you are very welcome, Teresa. The use of her first name sent an unexpected warmth through her. She nodded and headed up to her room, feeling his eyes on her back as she climbed the stairs. That night, Teresa slept deeply and woke to bright morning sunlight streaming through her window. She dressed quickly and went downstairs to find Mrs. Sutton setting out breakfast. Mr. Cooper left before dawn, the landlady said, setting a plate of eggs and bacon in front of Teresa. Said he would be back by evening. Teresa ate breakfast, then walked to the doctor's office. She spent the day sitting with her father, reading to him from a book Dr. Williams loaned her and helping him sip broth when he was awake. Samuel was definitely improving, though he was still terribly weak. This man who helped us, Samuel said during one of his lucid periods. Nathan Cooper. Tell me about him. I do not know much, Papa. He breeds horses. He has a ranch north of here. He is unmarried. Teresa felt her cheeks warm. I did not ask. Samuel gave her a knowing look. He is a good man to help strangers the way he has. Those are rare. We were just lucky he came along when he did. Maybe. Samuel closed his eyes, tiring quickly. Or maybe God puts people in our path for a reason. Teresa did not answer, but her father's words stayed with her throughout the afternoon. When evening came and she heard hoofbeats outside, her heart gave an unexpected leap. Nathan came into the doctor's office dusty from travel but smiling. Your homestead is secure, Teresa. I fed all the animals and shut the chickens up in the coop. Your garden needed watering, so I took care of that too. Everything else looked good. Relief flooded through her. Thank you so much. One of your cows is going to calve soon, I think, within the week. Bessie. Yes, she is due any day now. I can ride out again in a few days and check on her if you like. You have done enough. I should go back myself. Nathan shook his head. Your father needs you here, and you need to be rested when he is ready to travel home. Let me help. Teresa wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Samuel was in no condition to be moved, and she could not be in two places at once. Thank you, she said again, feeling the inadequacy of the words. Nathan visited Samuel briefly, assuring him that the homestead was in good order, then invited Teresa to supper again. They fell into an easy routine over the next few days. Nathan would ride out to check the homestead, coming back each evening with reports on the animals and the property. Teresa spent her days with her father, watching him slowly improve, and her evenings with Nathan, sharing meals and conversation. She learned that Nathan was 26 years old, 4 years older than herself. He had come to California from Texas 5 years ago with money he had saved from years of cowboying and bought land near Red Rock Canyon. He had built his ranch from nothing, breeding and training horses that were now sought after throughout the region. It was not easy at first, he admitted one evening as they sat on the porch of the boarding house, watching the stars come out. I lived in a tent for the first year while I built the barn. The horses had better shelter than I did. Teresa laughed. That sounds familiar. When we first filed our homestead claim, we lived in a dugout for 6 months while we built the cabin. This land does not give up its blessings easily. No, but that makes them more valuable when you get them. Nathan turned to look at her, and in the starlight his eyes were warm. You are wise for 22. Living hard will do that. They sat in comfortable silence, and Teresa realized with a start that she was happy. Despite her father's illness, despite their uncertain future, despite all the reasons she had to be worried and afraid, she was happy sitting here with Nathan Cooper under the vast California sky. On the 4th day of Samuel's treatment, Teresa was helping him eat lunch when Dr. Williams came in with a concerned expression. Mr. Calloway, I need to examine your throat again. I am worried about some swelling I am seeing. Samuel opened his mouth obediently, and the doctor peered inside with a tongue depressor and a lamp. After a long moment, he straightened up. The swelling is worse than I like. Scarlet fever can cause abscesses in the throat. I need to watch you very carefully for the next 24 hours. If it gets worse, I may need to lance it. Teresa felt her stomach clench with fear. Is that dangerous? It can be, but less dangerous than leaving it untreated. Dr. Williams patted Samuel's shoulder. Try not to worry. We are watching it carefully. That evening, when Nathan came to collect her for supper, Teresa could barely eat. She pushed food around her plate, her mind filled with images of everything that could go wrong. Teresa. Nathan's hand covered hers on the table. Your father is getting the best care possible. Dr. Williams is a good physician. I know, but what if it is not enough? What if I lose him too? The tears she had been holding back all day finally spilled over. I cannot lose him. He is all I have. Nathan moved his chair closer and put his arm around her shoulders. Teresa turned into his chest and cried, feeling his hand stroke her hair gently. He did not tell her everything would be all right or offer empty reassurances. He just held her and let her cry, and somehow that was exactly what she needed. When the storm of tears finally passed, Teresa pulled back, embarrassed. I am sorry, I got your shirt all wet. I do not care about the shirt. Nathan's face was tender. You have been so strong through all of this. You are allowed to fall apart a little. Teresa wiped her eyes. My mother used to say that falling apart is a luxury we cannot afford. We have to keep going no matter what. Your mother sounds like she was a strong woman. She was. Losing her nearly destroyed my father if he dies too. Teresa could not finish the thought. He is not going to die. He is already so much better than when I first saw him. But the abscess will be treated if it develops. You cannot borrow tomorrow's trouble, Teresa. You have enough to deal with today. His words were sensible, and Teresa tried to take comfort in them. But that night, sleep was elusive. She lay awake worrying, watching the shadows move across her ceiling. The next morning, she rushed to the doctor's office, fearing the worst. But she found Samuel sitting up in bed, eating a bowl of oatmeal and looking stronger than he had in days. The swelling went down overnight, Dr. Williams announced with satisfaction. No abscess. The fever is nearly gone. I think we have turned the corner. The relief was so intense that Teresa had to sit down. He is going to be all right. He is going to be all right. He will need another week of rest and recovery, but the worst is over. Samuel reached out and took Teresa's hand. I told you I was too stubborn to die. Teresa laughed, giddy with relief. She stayed with her father all day, and when Nathan came that evening, she met him at the door with a huge smile. He is going to be all right. The swelling went down. Dr. Williams says he has passed the crisis. Nathan's face lit up with genuine pleasure. That is wonderful news. Then, impulsively, he swept her up in a hug, lifting her off her feet. Teresa found herself laughing, her arms around his neck, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. When he set her down, they stood close for a moment, suddenly aware of each other in a new way. Nathan's hands were still on her waist. Teresa's were on his shoulders. Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them. Nathan cleared his throat and stepped back. We should celebrate. Let me take you to dinner at the hotel. They have a real dining room, much fancier than the boarding house. The hotel dining room was indeed fancy, with white tablecloths and candles and a piano player in the corner. Teresa felt out of place in her simple dress, but Nathan looked at her like she was the most beautiful woman in the room. They ordered steak and potatoes and talked about everything and nothing. Teresa found herself telling Nathan about her childhood in Missouri, about the journey west, about her mother's death, and how hard the first year alone with her father had been. We almost gave up and went back east that first winter, she admitted. We were down to our last supplies and the garden had failed and it seemed impossible. But my father said Callaways do not quit, so we stayed. I am glad you did. Are you? Nathan's eyes were serious. Yes, very glad. After dinner, they walked slowly back to the boarding house. The night was cool and clear, the stars brilliant overhead. Nathan offered his arm and Teresa took it, feeling the solid strength of him beneath his jacket. Teresa, Nathan said as they walked, I need to go back to my ranch tomorrow. I have been away longer than I planned and my foreman will be wondering if I died. Disappointment crashed over Teresa, surprising her with its intensity. Of course, you have your own life. You have already done so much. I will come back, Nathan said quickly. In a few days. I just need to check on things, make sure the operation is running smoothly. You do not have to. We have imposed on you enough. Nathan stopped walking and turned to face her. You have not imposed. I have been helping because I wanted to, because... He paused, seeming to struggle for words. Because I care about what happens to you and your father. Teresa's heart was beating too fast. Why? I think you know why. She did know, had known for days, but hearing him almost say it made it real. Nathan. I know it is too soon, he said quickly. We have only known each other a week. But Teresa, I have never met anyone like you. Your strength, your devotion to your father, the way you kept going when most people would have given up. I admire you, and I would like permission to court you properly once your father is well. Teresa felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff. "I would like that too," she said softly. Nathan smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "Good. That is very good." He took her hand, raising it to his lips in an old-fashioned gesture that should have seemed silly, but instead made Teresa's heart flutter. "I will be back in 3 days. Will you wait for me?" "Yes." The next morning, Nathan left before dawn. Teresa waved goodbye from the boarding house porch, watching until he disappeared down the dusty road. Then she went to visit her father, who took one look at her face and smiled. "So, Nathan Cooper is courting you." Teresa tried to look innocent. "What makes you say that?" "The fact that you are walking around looking like sunshine. I may be sick, but I am not blind, daughter. He asked permission to court me properly once you are well." Samuel nodded approvingly. "He is a good man. A little older than you, but not too much. He has land and a trade. More importantly, he has character. When he could have just sent you to the doctor and ridden away, he stayed and helped. That says a lot about a man. It is fast, though. We barely know each other. Your mother and I knew each other 2 weeks before I asked her to marry me." "When you know, you know." Teresa blushed. "No one is talking about marriage, Papa. Not yet, but they will be." The next 3 days passed slowly. Samuel continued to improve, sitting up for longer periods and taking solid food. Dr. Williams was pleased with his progress and predicted he could go home by the end of the week if he continued recovering at this pace. Teresa spent her days with her father and her evenings helping Mrs. Sutton around the boarding house to earn their keep. She changed linens and helped with laundry and set tables. The work kept her hands busy, but not her mind, which kept drifting to Nathan. On the 3rd evening, as promised, he returned. Teresa was in the parlor mending a hem when she heard his horse outside. She tried not to run to the door, but she did walk very quickly. Nathan looked tired from travel, but his face lit up when he saw her. "Hello, Teresa." "Hello, did you have a good trip?" "Productive. The ranch is running smoothly. My foreman did a fine job in my absence." He glanced around the empty parlor. "Can we talk? Maybe take a walk?" Teresa nodded, grabbing her shawl. They walked down the main street as the evening settled in around them. For a few minutes neither spoke, just enjoying being together again. "I missed you," Nathan said finally. "I missed you too. I did a lot of thinking while I was away, about you, about us, about the future." He paused. "I know we have not known each other long. By conventional standards, what I am feeling is too fast, too soon. But Teresa, I cannot ignore it. You have gotten under my skin in a way no one else ever has." Teresa's heart was racing. "I feel it too. It is like I have known you forever instead of just days." Nathan took both her hands in his. "I want to court you properly. Spend time together. Let you get to know the real me and let me get to know you. But I also want you to know that my intentions are serious. I am not looking for a casual romance. I am looking for a partner, a wife, someone to build a life with." "That is what I want too," Teresa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then let's take this one day at a time and see where it leads." Nathan squeezed her hands. "Now tell me how your father is doing." They walked and talked until the stars came out. Nathan told her about his ranch, about the horses he was training, about his plans to expand. Teresa told him about the homestead, about her dreams of building it into something substantial, about her fears of managing alone. "You will not have to manage alone," Nathan said. "Whatever happens between us, you have a friend now. I will help however I can. You have already helped so much. I want to help more." Nathan hesitated. "I have an idea, but I do not want you to take it the wrong way." "What is it?" "When your father is ready to go home, you will need help. He will be weak for a while, unable to do heavy work. What if you both came to stay at my ranch for a few weeks? I have a spare cabin, nothing fancy, but it is comfortable. You could both rest and recover, and when your father is stronger, I can help you get your homestead in order before you go back." Teresa's first instinct was to refuse. They had already accepted so much from Nathan, but her practical side saw the wisdom in his offer. Her father would need careful nursing, and she would need help with heavy work. "I would need to contribute," she said. "I could cook and clean, help around your ranch. Only if you want to. The offer stands either way. Let me talk to my father about it." Samuel, when presented with the idea the next day, agreed immediately. "It makes sense, daughter, and it will give us both a chance to see Nathan Cooper's character. If he is going to court you, I want to see how he lives, how he treats his workers, what kind of man he is when he is on his own ground. I thought you already approved of him. I do, but a father's approval should be earned, not given lightly." 5 days later, Dr. Williams declared Samuel well enough to travel, with the caveat that he needed to take it easy and continue resting. Nathan borrowed a wagon from the livery stable, making a comfortable bed in the back with blankets and pillows for Samuel to lie on. The trip to Nathan's ranch took most of the day at the slow pace they maintained for Samuel's comfort. Teresa sat on the wagon seat beside Nathan, watching the landscape change from the stark desert around Randsburg to the more varied terrain near Red Rock Canyon. The rock formations were stunning, great red cliffs rising from the earth like ancient monuments. Nathan's ranch lay in a valley with a creek running through it. As they came over the last rise, Teresa saw it spread out below. A large barn, a main house, several corrals with horses in them, and a smaller cabin set off to the side. Everything was well maintained and orderly, speaking to Nathan's careful management. Several men came out of the barn as they approached. Nathan pulled the wagon to a stop in front of the main house and jumped down. "Bill," he called to a man in his 40s with graying hair. "This is Teresa Calloway and her father, Samuel. They are going to be our guests for a few weeks. Can you help me get Mr. Calloway settled in the guest cabin?" Bill tipped his hat to Teresa. "Madam, Mr. Calloway, welcome." He helped Nathan carefully lift Samuel from the wagon and carry him into the cabin. The cabin was simple but comfortable, with a wood stove, a table and chairs, and 2 beds in separate alcoves. Someone had already been inside to air it out and lay a fire. Teresa suspected Nathan had sent word ahead. They settled Samuel into one of the beds, propping him up with pillows. He was tired from the journey but in good spirits. "This is very nice," Samuel said, looking around. "Better than the dugout we lived in our first year in California." Nathan grinned. "Better than the tent I lived in my first year here." "Teresa, your room is the other bed unless you would prefer to stay in the main house. I have a spare room there too." "Here is fine," Teresa said quickly. She wanted to be close to her father. "All right. Get settled, and when you are ready, come up to the main house. My cook, Rosaria, is making dinner." After Nathan left, Teresa helped her father get comfortable, then explored the cabin. It was clean and well appointed, with basic supplies in the small kitchen area and even a few books on a shelf. Through the window, she could see the main house, larger and more substantial, with smoke coming from its chimney. "He has done well for himself," Samuel observed from his bed. "This is a successful operation. It certainly seems that way. And he is inviting us into it, into his life." "That is significant, Teresa." Teresa nodded, feeling the weight of it. This was more than just help for strangers. Nathan was showing them who he was, opening his home and his life to them. It was a declaration of serious intent. That evening they ate dinner in the main house. Rosaria, Nathan's cook, was a Mexican woman in her 50s with a warm smile and an amazing talent with food. She served them chicken in a rich sauce with rice and beans and fresh tortillas. Nathan's foreman, Bill, joined them, along with two other ranch hands, Tom and Miguel. The conversation was easy and friendly, and Teresa saw how Nathan commanded respect without demanding it. His men clearly liked him, joking with him while still deferring to his judgment on ranch matters. After dinner, Nathan walked Teresa and Samuel back to the cabin. The evening was cool, the stars brilliant overhead. "You have a good operation here," Samuel said. "I am impressed. Thank you. It has taken 5 years of hard work, but I am proud of what we have built." Nathan paused at the cabin door. "I hope you will both be comfortable here. If you need anything at all, just let me know." "You have been more than generous," Samuel said, "more than we could ever repay." "There is no debt between friends." Nathan tipped his hat. "Good night. Sleep well." The next few weeks fell into a comfortable routine. Teresa rose early to help Rosaria with breakfast, then spent the mornings with her father, who was slowly regaining his strength. In the afternoons, she helped around the ranch, working in the vegetable garden Rosaria maintained or doing mending for the hands. Nathan was busy with his horses, training the younger ones and working with buyers who came to see his stock. But he always found time in the evenings to sit with Teresa and Samuel, talking about the day's events or playing cards or just enjoying each other's company. Teresa watched Nathan carefully during those weeks, seeing him in all the small moments that reveal character. She saw how he treated his animals with firm kindness, never cruel but never weak. She saw how he paid his workers fairly and listened to their concerns. She saw how he handled a dispute between two of his hands with wisdom and fairness. She also saw how he looked at her when he thought she was not watching, his eyes full of warmth and longing. One evening, about 3 weeks into their stay, Samuel declared he was tired and wanted to turn in early. He gave Teresa a pointed look as he went into the cabin, leaving her and Nathan alone on the porch. "Your father is feeling better," Nathan observed, a smile playing at his lips. "I think he just gave us some time alone." Teresa laughed. "That was not subtle at all." "No, but I appreciate it nonetheless." Nathan leaned against the porch railing. "Teresa, these past weeks having you here, they have been some of the happiest of my life. I know we have been spending time together, but it has all been with your father nearby or around the ranch. I would like to take you somewhere, just the two of us. Would you like to go riding tomorrow? I want to show you something." "I would like that very much." The next morning, Nathan had 2 horses saddled and waiting. One was his bay gelding and the other was a pretty gray mare with a gentle eye. "This is Silver," Nathan said, introducing the mare. "She is sweet-tempered and sure-footed. I thought you might like her." Teresa mounted easily, feeling at home in the saddle. They rode out together, following the creek upstream into the canyon. The red rock walls rose around them, creating a sense of intimacy and wonder. After about an hour, Nathan led them off the main trail to a smaller path that climbed up the canyon wall. Teresa followed, trusting his lead. They emerged at a plateau overlooking the entire valley. The view was breathtaking. "I come here when I need to think," Nathan said, dismounting. He helped Teresa down, his hands lingering on her waist. "I wanted to share it with you." They stood together, looking out over the valley. Nathan's ranch was visible below, along with miles of open land stretching to the horizon. "It is beautiful," Teresa breathed. "You are beautiful." Teresa turned to find Nathan looking at her instead of the view, her breath caught. "Teresa, I know it has only been a few weeks, but I meant what I said in Randsburg. My feelings for you are serious. You have become essential to me. I think about you constantly. When I see something interesting, my first thought is to share it with you. When something good happens, you are the one I want to tell. When something is difficult, you are the one I want beside me." "I feel the same way," Teresa admitted. "I have never felt this way about anyone." Nathan took her hands. "I want a future with you." Marriage, children, building something lasting together. Is that what you want too? Yes, Teresa said without hesitation. Yes, that is exactly what I want. Nathan pulled her close and kissed her. It was gentle at first, tentative, but when Teresa responded, it deepened into something more passionate. She felt like she was falling and flying at the same time, held safe in his arms. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Nathan rested his forehead against hers. I love you, Teresa Calloway. I love you too, Nathan Cooper. They stood there, holding each other until Silver nickered impatiently. Both of them laughed, breaking the intensity of the moment. We should probably head back, Nathan said reluctantly. Before your father sends out a search party. He would not. He likes you. I hope so, because I am going to ask him for permission to marry you. Teresa's heart soared. Are you? Tonight, if he is willing to hear me. They rode back to the ranch, stealing glances at each other the whole way. When they arrived, Samuel was sitting on the cabin porch, looking much stronger than he had in weeks. Did you have a nice ride? He asked innocently. Very nice, Teresa said, her cheeks warming. Samuel looked between them and smiled. Nathan, would you like to come inside? I think we need to have a conversation. Nathan dismounted and handed his reins to one of the hands. Yes, sir. I would appreciate that. Teresa was sent to the main house while Nathan and her father talked. She paced Rosaria's kitchen, too nervous to sit still. He will say yes, Rosaria said calmly, rolling out dough for biscuits. Your father, he is a wise man. He knows Nathan is good. What if he thinks it is too fast? Love does not follow a schedule. Sometimes you know quickly. Sometimes it takes years. The speed does not matter. What matters is the knowing. After what felt like hours but was probably only 30 minutes, Nathan emerged from the cabin. Teresa met him at the door, searching his face. Nathan was grinning. He said yes. Teresa threw her arms around his neck. Really, we have his blessing. Nathan spun her around. We are engaged, Teresa. You are going to be my wife. The rest of the day passed in a happy blur. They told the ranch hands at dinner, and everyone celebrated with Rosaria's special dessert and toasts to their future. Samuel looked happier than Teresa had seen him since before her mother's death. That evening, after the celebration died down, Teresa and Nathan sat on the porch of the main house, planning their future. I do not want a long engagement, Nathan said. Is that all right with you? More than all right. I do not need a big wedding, just something simple. We could get married in Randsburg, perhaps in a month. That would give your father time to fully recover and give us time to prepare. A month sounds perfect. They talked about where they would live. Nathan suggested that Samuel move to the ranch permanently, taking the guest cabin as his own. Your homestead could still produce, Nathan said. We could hire a hand to work it and bring in the profits. That way your father's work is not wasted, but he is not isolated if he gets sick again. Would he agree to that, do you think? Let's ask him. They went to the cabin, where Samuel was reading by lamplight. When they presented the idea, he was quiet for a long moment. I have spent 5 years building that homestead, he said finally. Losing it feels like losing the last piece of your mother. You would not be losing it, Papa, Teresa said softly. Just letting someone else work it while you rest. You could visit whenever you wanted. Samuel nodded slowly. And I would be here to see my grandchildren grow up, to be part of their lives. He looked at Nathan. You do want children? Very much, Nathan said, his hand finding Teresa's. Then I accept, with gratitude. The next few weeks were a flurry of preparation. Nathan rode to Randsburg to arrange for the wedding and to talk to Dr. Williams about hiring a hand for the Calloway homestead. Teresa worked with Rosaria to sew a simple but pretty wedding dress from fabric Nathan bought from the general store. Samuel continued to recover, growing stronger each day. He began helping around the ranch, doing light work that gradually increased as his stamina returned. Teresa was relieved to see color back in his face and energy in his movements. One afternoon, Nathan took Teresa to visit her homestead. They rode out together, and Teresa felt a pang seeing the little cabin she had shared with her father. But it was not sadness exactly, more a bittersweet acknowledgement of one chapter ending and another beginning. "We will take good care of it," Nathan promised, seeing her expression. "And you can visit whenever you want. Maybe one day, if we have a son who wants to ranch, this could be his start." The idea of their children warmed Teresa. "You have thought about this. I think about our future all the time." They walked through the cabin, and Teresa gathered a few personal items she wanted to bring to the ranch. Her mother's quilt, some photographs, her father's favorite chair. Nathan loaded everything into the wagon without question. Before they left, they stood together looking at the land Samuel had worked so hard to claim. "Your father built something real here," Nathan said. "Against all odds in hard country he made a home. That is not nothing." "No," Teresa agreed. "It is not nothing." The day of the wedding dawned clear and bright. Teresa woke in the cabin feeling nervous and excited in equal measure. Rosaria came down to help her dress, fussing over every detail. "You look beautiful," Samuel said when Teresa emerged in her wedding dress. His eyes were wet. "Your mother would be so proud." "I wish she could be here. She is here. In your strength, in your kindness. She is always with you." They rode to Randsburg in Nathan's wagon, the whole ranch coming along for the celebration. The wedding was held in the small church at the edge of town, with Dr. Williams and Mrs. Sutton attending along with various townspeople who had gotten to know Teresa during her father's treatment. Nathan stood at the altar in a new suit, his hair neatly combed, his eyes locked on Teresa as she walked down the aisle on her father's arm. He looked at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They exchanged vows they had written themselves, promising to love and support each other through all the hardships and joys life would bring. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Nathan kissed Teresa with such tenderness that several people in the congregation sighed. The celebration afterward was held at the hotel dining room. There was food and music and dancing. Teresa danced first with Nathan, then with her father, then with Bill and the other ranch hands who had become her friends. As the sun began to set, Nathan whisked Teresa away in the wagon, heading back to the ranch and the life they would build together. They had prepared the main house for themselves, giving the guest cabin entirely to Samuel. That night, in the quiet of their bedroom, Nathan held Teresa close. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Teresa answered honestly. "When I was carrying my father across Randsburg, I thought my life was ending, but it was actually beginning. We both got lucky that day." "No," Teresa said, touching his face. "Not luck. We were meant to find each other. I believe that." Nathan kissed her, and they lost themselves in each other, beginning their marriage with joy and love and hope for the future. The months that followed were some of the happiest of Teresa's life. She threw herself into ranch life, helping Rosaria with the house, working in the garden, and learning the horse breeding business from Nathan. She discovered she had a talent for working with the young horses, her gentle firmness earning their trust quickly. Samuel thrived at the ranch, his health fully restored. He became an unofficial advisor to Nathan, his years of experience proving valuable in many situations. He and Nathan developed a genuine friendship that went beyond their family connection. In the spring, Teresa discovered she was pregnant. Nathan's joy was boundless. He immediately became overprotective, wanting Teresa to rest constantly. She tolerated it with amusement, continuing to work as her body allowed. "I am pregnant, not made of glass," she told him when he tried to prevent her from carrying a basket of vegetables from the garden. "You are carrying my child. That makes you precious beyond measure." Their son was born on a cool October evening in 1888, with Rosaria attending as midwife. Nathan held Teresa's hand through the whole labor, never leaving her side. When the baby finally arrived, healthy and loud, Nathan cried openly. They named him James Samuel Cooper, after both grandfathers. Samuel was overjoyed to have a grandson, spending hours holding the baby and telling him stories. 2 years later, a daughter arrived, whom they named Clara Rose after both grandmothers. She had Teresa's green eyes and Nathan's dark hair and a sunny disposition that charmed everyone. The ranch prospered, Nathan's reputation for quality horses spreading throughout California and beyond. They bought more land, expanding the operation. Teresa became a full partner in the business, her input valued and respected. Samuel lived to see 4 grandchildren. James was followed by Clara, then by twin boys, Henry and Matthew. He passed away peacefully in his sleep when James was 7, surrounded by the family he loved. His death was hard for Teresa, but she was grateful for the years they had been given after his illness. The homestead was eventually absorbed into the ranch, the little cabin maintained as a kind of shrine to Samuel's determination and hard work. As the years passed, Teresa and Nathan's love only deepened. They faced challenges together, droughts that tested the ranch's resources, illness that struck the children, the normal struggles of life and business. But through it all, they remained partners in the truest sense. On their 10th anniversary, Nathan took Teresa back to the plateau where he had first told her he loved her. The children were left with Rosaria, and they had a rare day alone together. "You remember the first time I brought you here?" Nathan asked as they stood looking out over the valley. "Of course. You told me you loved me. You asked if I wanted a future with you. Do you ever regret saying yes?" Teresa turned to face him, taking both his hands. "Never, not for one single moment. You gave me everything, Nathan. A home, a family, a partnership that makes me better every day. You saved my father's life and then you saved mine, in a completely different way. You saved mine too. I was so lonely before you came. I had success, I had land and horses and money, but I did not have anyone to share it with. You made everything meaningful." They kissed, still as passionate as they had been 10 years ago, still as in love. More years passed. The children grew, James showing a natural talent for horses that rivaled his father's, Clara becoming a skilled manager who took over much of the business side of the ranch. The twins were inseparable, working together to expand into cattle as well as horses. When Teresa and Nathan celebrated their 25th anniversary, they held a huge party at the ranch. People came from all over California, friends and business associates and family. The house and barn were decorated with flowers and lanterns. There was music and dancing and more food than anyone could eat. Their children, now grown, gave speeches about their parents' love and the example they had set. James talked about his father's integrity. Clara spoke of her mother's strength. The twins made everyone laugh with stories of their parents' romance. As the evening wound down and the guests began to leave, Teresa and Nathan stood on the porch of the house they had built together, watching the stars come out. 25 years, Nathan said wonderingly. It feels like yesterday and forever at the same time. I know what you mean. Teresa leaned against him, his arm coming around her shoulders automatically. Do you ever think about that day in Randsburg? How different our lives could have been if you had just ridden past. I think about it sometimes, but I could never have ridden past. You were there, needing help, and I was there to give it. It was meant to be. Yes, Teresa agreed. It was. They stood together in comfortable silence, surrounded by the life they had built. The ranch spread out before them, prosperous and thriving. Their children were happy and successful. They had faced challenges and overcome them together. They had loved and been loved in return. Inside the house, their grandchildren were playing, the children of their children filling the home with noise and joy. It was everything Teresa had dreamed of that day in Randsburg when Nathan Cooper had lifted her and her father onto his horse and changed their lives forever. "I love you," Nathan said, as he had said countless times over the past 25 years. "More today than yesterday, less than tomorrow." "I love you too," Teresa replied, the words as true now as they had been the first time she said them. "Always and forever." As the stars wheeled overhead and the night wind whispered through the canyon, Teresa reflected on how one moment of compassion, one man stopping to help strangers in need, had created this entire beautiful life. It had all started with a desperate walk across a dusty town, with a cowboy who chose kindness over convenience, with love that bloomed in the harsh soil of the California desert and grew into something lasting and true. The children called from inside, wanting their grandparents to come tell stories before bed. Nathan and Teresa smiled at each other and went inside together, hand in hand, just as they had faced everything else in their lives. Together, always together. Two people who had found each other when they needed it most and built a love that would last not just their lifetimes but echo through generations to come. Their grandchildren eventually grew and had children of their own, and the story of how Nathan and Teresa met became family legend. It was told and retold, embellished and cherished, a reminder that kindness matters, that love can bloom in unexpected places, that one moment of choice can change everything. The ranch continued to prosper, passing from generation to generation. The original main house was maintained and preserved, a monument to the love that had started everything. And in the guest cabin, kept exactly as it had been when Samuel lived there, a photograph hung on the wall showing Teresa and Nathan on their wedding day, young and hopeful and deeply in love, ready to face whatever the future held together. Years turned into decades. Nathan and Teresa grew old together, their love never diminishing even as their bodies aged. They sat together on the porch in the evenings, watching their great-grandchildren play, marveling at all they had built. On a warm summer evening when they were both in their 70s, after a day spent celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary surrounded by more family than they could count, Nathan and Teresa sat together watching the sunset paint the canyon walls red and gold. 50 years, Teresa said softly. "Can you believe it? With you I can believe anything." Nathan's hand found hers, his grip still strong despite his years. "You have given me the best life a man could ask for." We gave it to each other. They sat in silence, comfortable and complete. The evening was perfect, the air sweet with the scent of sage and wildflowers. Inside the house, their family laughed and talked, the sound of joy filling every corner. "Teresa," Nathan said after a while, "if I had to do it all again, I would not change a single thing. Every moment with you has been a gift." Teresa turned to look at her husband, seeing past the wrinkles and gray hair to the young cowboy who had stopped to help a desperate young woman carrying her sick father across town. The kindness in his eyes was the same, the love unchanged by time. "Neither would I," she said, "not one single thing." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of purple and pink, they sat together in the home they had built, surrounded by the family they had created, living proof that love rooted in compassion and nurtured with care could grow into something magnificent. Their story, which had begun with a simple act of helping someone in need, had blossomed into a legacy that would continue long after they were gone. The stars came out one by one, the same stars that had witnessed their first kiss, their wedding, every moment of joy and sorrow in their 50 years together. And Nathan and Teresa Cooper sat hand in hand, grateful for every single day they had been given, knowing that their love story was complete, perfect, and would live on forever in the hearts of those who came after them. The years continued their inevitable march forward. Nathan and Teresa remained active on the ranch well into their later years, though they gradually handed over more responsibility to their children and grandchildren. They took pleasure in watching the younger generations take the operation to new heights, expanding into breeding programs that attracted buyers from across the country. On quiet evenings, Teresa would sometimes sit in Samuel's old cabin, running her hands over the furniture he had used, remembering the father who had taught her to be strong. She was grateful every day for Nathan's intervention that hot afternoon in Randsburg, for the care that had saved her father's life and given them more years together. Nathan marked those same evenings by riding out to the plateau, their special place, remembering the day he had brought Teresa there and declared his love. He had known from the moment he saw her struggling down that dusty street that she was someone extraordinary. Time had only proven him right. When Teresa was 73 and Nathan was 77, they decided to take a trip back to Randsburg. Their grandson James drove them in a new motorized vehicle that terrified and delighted them in equal measure. The town had changed considerably in the decades since their first meeting, but the basic layout remained the same. They walked down the main street, Teresa pointing out where she had been when Nathan first saw her. The doctor's office was still there, though Dr. Williams had long since passed and a younger physician had taken over the practice. The boarding house still stood, though Mrs. Sutton had sold it years ago. "Right here," Teresa said, stopping in the middle of the street. "This is where I fell. Where I thought I could not go another step." Nathan put his arm around her. "And this is where I stopped my horse and asked if you needed help. Best decision you ever made. Second best. The best was marrying you." They stood there for a long moment, remembering, then walked on together. At the church where they had been married, they sat in the pews and held hands, grateful for all the years they had been given. The trip back to Randsburg became an annual pilgrimage. Each year, they would visit, walking the same streets, remembering the beginning of their love story. Their family thought it was charming, the old couple returning to where they met, keeping the flame of their romance alive. When Teresa was 78, she fell ill. It was not anything acute like her father's scarlet fever, just the gradual wearing down of a body that had lived a full and active life. Nathan refused to leave her side, sleeping in a chair next to their bed, holding her hand through the nights when pain made sleep difficult. Their children tried to convince him to rest, to let them take shifts sitting with her, but Nathan was adamant. "I have spent 56 years by her side," he told them firmly. "I am not stopping now." Teresa recovered from that illness, though she was weaker afterward. She could no longer work around the ranch, though she still managed the household and dispensed wisdom to her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Nathan scaled back his own activities to stay close to her, unwilling to be far from her side. On their 60th wedding anniversary, the family threw another huge party. Teresa, though frail, was radiant in a new dress Clara had made for her. Nathan, stooped now with age but still strong in spirit, never left her side the entire evening. When asked to give a speech, Nathan stood with Teresa's hand in his. 60 years ago, I married the most remarkable woman I have ever known. She has been my partner, my friend, my love, my entire world. People sometimes ask me the secret to a long and happy marriage. I tell them there is no secret. You find someone you respect and admire, someone who makes you want to be better, someone you cannot imagine living without. Then you work at it every single day. You choose love again and again through good times and hard times. That is what Teresa and I have done. We have chosen each other every day for 60 years, and I would do it all again in a heartbeat. There was not a dry eye in the house. Teresa stood with Nathan's help and added her own words. Nathan Cooper saved my life twice. Once when he helped my father and me reach the doctor, and once when he gave me a reason to look forward instead of just surviving. He showed me what love could be, what partnership meant. Every good thing in my life came from that moment when he stopped his horse and asked if he could help. So, my advice to all of you is simple. Be kind. Help when you can. You never know when a simple act of compassion might change everything. 2 years later, as autumn painted the canyon in shades of gold and red, Teresa passed away peacefully in her sleep with Nathan lying beside her, their hands clasped together. She was 80 years old and had lived every single day of those 80 years with purpose and love. Nathan was heartbroken but not bitter. He had been given 62 years of marriage to the woman he loved, far more than many people got. He made it through the funeral with dignity, surrounded by the massive family they had created together. In the days after Teresa's death, Nathan spent long hours in their bedroom, holding her pillow, breathing in the faint scent of her that still lingered. His children worried about him, but he assured them he was all right. I am sad, he told them honestly. I will be sad for the rest of my life, but I am also grateful, so very grateful. He lived for another 3 years, staying active on the ranch, spending time with his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, making sure Teresa's memory stayed alive through stories and photographs. He visited her grave every day, telling her about the ranch, about the family, about how much he missed her. On what would have been their 65th wedding anniversary, Nathan dressed in his best suit and rode out to the plateau where he had first told Teresa he loved her. He sat there for hours, looking out over the valley, remembering every moment of their life together. That evening he did not come home. His grandson James went looking and found him on the plateau, sitting with his back against a rock, looking peaceful. Nathan Cooper had passed away watching the sunset over the land he loved, thinking of the woman who had been his everything. The family buried him next to Teresa, under a huge oak tree on a hill overlooking the ranch. The headstone read, Nathan and Teresa Cooper. 2 hearts, 1 love, forever together. The ranch continued to thrive under the management of their descendants. The main house was preserved as it had been when Nathan and Teresa lived there, a museum to their love. The guest cabin where Samuel had lived became a place where newly engaged couples from the family would stay, hoping some of Nathan and Teresa's lasting love would bless their own marriages. Their story was passed down through generations, growing in the telling but never losing its essential truth. That kindness matters, that love can bloom in the harshest conditions, that choosing to help someone in need can change not just their life but yours as well. On what would have been their 100th wedding anniversary, the family held a huge reunion at the ranch. Hundreds of descendants came, all of them alive, because Nathan Cooper had stopped his horse one hot afternoon in 1887 and helped a young woman carrying her sick father across town. The oldest grandchild, now 75 himself, told the story to the youngest generation, keeping the memory alive. Your great-great-grandmother was carrying her sick father through Randsburg, he began, and the children gathered close to hear the tale they had heard 100 times before but never tired of. She was at the end of her strength, ready to collapse. And your great-great-grandfather, though he did not know her, stopped to help. He lifted them both onto his horse and found them care. And from that single act of kindness, our entire family was born. The children listened with wide eyes, trying to imagine a time so long ago, trying to picture their ancestors as young and struggling and falling in love. The story ended, as it always did, with the reminder that kindness matters, that love endures, that the choices we make ripple forward through time in ways we cannot imagine. As the sun set over the California desert, painting the canyon walls in shades of red and gold just as it had for over a century, the descendants of Nathan and Teresa Cooper gathered together, bound by blood and love, and the legacy of two people who had found each other when they needed it most. Their love story, which had begun with struggle and been built on compassion, had created something that would last forever. Not just in the ranch that still bore their name, or in the generations that carried their blood, but in the lesson they taught by living their lives with integrity and love and unwavering commitment to each other. In a world that often seemed harsh and unforgiving, Nathan and Teresa had proven that kindness could change everything, that love could overcome any obstacle, and that a life built on compassion and partnership could create ripples that would echo through eternity. Their story was complete, a perfect arc from that desperate afternoon in Randsburg to the family reunion celebrating a love that had lasted beyond death. It was a story of the Wild West, of hard country and harder choices, of two people who found each other against all odds and built something beautiful that would never die. And somewhere, if love persists beyond death, Nathan and Teresa Cooper were together still, watching over the family they had created, forever young in each other's eyes, forever in love, forever grateful for the moment when he stopped his horse and asked if he could help, and she said yes.